Family, I've always had a healthy amount of disdain for the celebrity Negroes created by the white media, and I hope that this stands as a good case study why that is. That's the reason why whenever I have any of the members of the B1 Brigade who do the old, well, what about Oprah Winfrey? Well, actually, it's not you guys. You're clearly a newbie if you come in here with that, well, if only we could get some of these black celebrities. I've already told you, by the time some Negro is getting caked off by the white media, they are lock, stock, and barrel a house Negro beyond redemption. And truth be told, these guys don't, even the ones who you would think haven't been bought off, who ain't got a slot on the train, even those guys don't want to be seen within 100 miles of us. So as far as I'm concerned, they don't matter, not merely because we cannot count on their support, but also because where do these Negroes' money come from? Where did Michael Jordan's money come from? Where did Oprah's money come from? It came from black people like you. We didn't need any of these idiots to take down Kamala Harris. We didn't need any of these idiots to make tangibles the hot button issue for black folks. We did that on our own. These clowns are irrelevant. But that's not to say that the white media is not still going to be bringing them out to see if perhaps there's any mileage that they can get out of them for the sake of deranging the internal politics of the black community. Now take a look at this. An 11-year-old cannot possibly be some sort of gay advocate unless someone is telling him to, because what child thinks in these terms? No child does. And this child at the 11 years of age, when you're prepubescent, how in the world he's supposed to be sitting here thinking, I want to declare myself a homosexual, unless someone's been exposing or subjecting him to some pretty horrible stuff. Kids at his age are still at the girls are icky stage. How can he be taking a sexual interest in anything? He has no gay peers to associate with. So it's not like he can get together and have some guy that he's got a crush on. He knows the other boys are looking and going, nah, we're not really looking at a crush on anything. And the few whose hormones may have already started early onset, they're already looking at females because, hey, all of them watch TV. And why is it that Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union would be cheering on their son taking a sexual interest in people? Folks, we ought to be smart enough to know when some adult has put a child up to something. Like the case of the satanic Charlize Theron, who claims that her adopted black son wants to run around in a princess costume. Now, you know damn well that's something that she's making that boy do. She is every bit as racist as any other of the Dutch occupiers in South Africa or anywhere else for that matter. Or the same way that Devontae Hart, we are told he wanted to hug a white cop at the Ferguson protests. Not because the two psychopathic white lesbians were torturing him and his siblings and would eventually murder them. No, he wanted to. You see how there's a repeated pattern when it comes to black children, particularly black male children, black boys, and the idea of their sexuality. There seems to be that recurring theme over and over again. This intersection between these two things is no accident at all. And you notice that out of the examples that I gave for you, that it happened to be the lesbian couple who wound up killing a whole bunch of those black children. Now, I'm not saying that the gay lifestyle has anything to do with that, but I am saying that there is an enormous amount of anti-black racism in the LGBT community that nobody's allowed to talk about. And I have no doubt that this video essay is going to be censored because the folks at YouTube are going to look and say, telling too much truth. You can't say that. Can't say that there's racism in the LGBT community. You cannot say that there are people who are dyed-in-the-wool anti-black zealots who would kill black people in a heartbeat in the LGBT community. You can't say that. But I just did. And what Dwayne Wade is doing is dangerous on a host of levels. Not merely because it gets you to think that you got friends in a community where you do not. These kids can't even spell alternative lifestyle. How the hell would Dwayne Wade's son know to go and seek out the local gay pride parade? Oh, I guess the kid just got up one morning and said, hey, I just saw this thing on the internet. Oh, I can't wait to check out Timmy and Tommy, the testicle twins, at the local gay pride parade. No, that doesn't make any sense, folks. 11-year-olds don't think that way. The only kids who ever go to parades are the ones whose parents take them to parades, which is most likely what happened here. no child would ever think to declare themselves heterosexual or homosexual. You haven't seen any kids saying, well, Mom, I want to go to the straight pride parade, or I want to go to some sort of ostentatious display of heterocentricity. Oh, there's some display going on here. The kids don't think that. They don't. And they don't even think to declare themselves homosexual unless you've got some political zealot, some adult who tells them that they have to choose a side, and then they have to declare it to the world. The younger, the better. Folks, we are talking about an 11-year-old boy here. He's never even had sex, we hope. So how in the hell would he know that he's sexually interested in other males? And why would he be racing off to a place which conveniently has a bunch of cameras and media attention like a gay pride parade? And you notice that Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade made sure that they went on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They wanted to make sure they went on every social media outlet they could to cheer this on. This is not something that they're doing for their son. They're doing this for the sake of their white paymasters. This is a display that they're putting on to let the white folks who they get their paychecks from know that, hey, we're on the team. Your values are our values. Your social engineering agenda is our social engineering agenda. This ain't grassroots, folks. It's AstroTurf. You're talking about an 11-year-old boy here. You ain't even talking about a teenager. Even gay kids at that age are far more interested in cartoons or sports. Even those who may have had just an idea that, hey, I'm supposed to be running around with the opposite sex, or at least somebody else, not by myself. Even they are still more interested in what's on television or hooping it up than they are in any sort of romantic anything. No child prioritizes sex because they don't even know what it is. And when it comes to relationships with other people, whether it be heterosexual, homosexual, or what have you, a child's not thinking in terms of, let me find some way to appeal to so-and-so because we're going to start a life together, or our first date, or any of that. Children don't think that way. And if you meet a child who tells you that they know about sex in depth, it's because some adult told them, or worse, some adult, well, that happens to be a possibility which happens far too often but doesn't bear repeating here. This boy hasn't even hit puberty, but he's already got raging hormones. The idea of a child being interested in their sexuality to the point that they want to join a social movement, a prepubescent gay activist, that is ridiculous on its face, because no child does this unless an adult put them up to it. Now, here's something to think about. Why is it that every time you see some celebrity's little child endorsing, acting out, or otherwise promoting the LGBT lifestyle, it's always a black child who the white media presents as doing it? There's plenty of white kids out there, and while their parents are busy helping them cheat their way into a private school, why is it that the white media never shows us any images of some white kid's white celebrity child in a dress or hanging out at the local gay pride parade? Why does that never happen? Tom Brady has an 11-year-old son. Did you know that? So why doesn't the white media have Tom Brady praising his white son or some other white athlete's son on Facebook or Instagram for being at a gay pride parade? Or saying, Dad, I haven't even made it out of middle school yet. I barely made it out of elementary school, but I want you to know I'm coming out the closet. I'm 11 years old and coming out the closet. There may be some white athletes' kids who are out of the closet, but the white media is not going to show you those images. This is all about social conditioning through the white media, and they make sure that we want this to only go one way. So there are images we'll show, and there are other images we're never going to show. They don't make white children into the face of these prepubescent gender movements. They don't use white kids for that, and there's a very good reason. The message is clear. Children, particularly black children, are never too young to be looked at as sexual beings. And that's something that's been going on since slavery. That's something that's been going on for 400 plus years. You can only imagine what kind of stuff that those sick, demented slavers were doing to black children on those slave ships and continue to do on the plantations. This insistence that a black boy is a man the moment that he's born. He's born a man. And black girls, well, you can't really rape a black girl, you know? Those black girls, why, they're hot to trot. Oh, why, those black females can't keep their legs closed. They're just born that way. That's what Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union are playing into, and they could give less than a damn. As far as they're concerned, they live in a nice gated community given to them by white power, so they're going to do everything that white power tells them to do. They're going to make sure they bend over backwards to please the same white forces that gave them everything that they have. We have to understand when you have adults who are using their children as vehicles to push a social agenda or to please the icy racial forces that they're depending on for every crumb of their daily bread. Besides, these are kids. So why not put them out there? After all, who would dare tell a child that they're wrong, right? I mean, sure, because kids have such excellent judgment. I mean, who knows themselves better than a child? An 11-year-old is just so mature. An 11-year-old is so learned, so experienced. And if a kid tells me that something happened in his mind that makes him believe that he is so-and-so, well, it must be true, because after all, whose thought process is more well-structured, well-considered, and well-thought-out than an 11-year-old boy? An 11-year-old child is the very picture of maturity and conscience, don't you think? But this is the premise that you have to accept if you're going to say, well, oh, it's just so cute. Oh, this kid, isn't it amazing? He's on a journey of personal discovery. No, he's on a journey of being led around by the nose by these folks who are using him. They're using him as as a mascot for what happens to be an anti-black agenda, trying to masquerade itself as some sort of gender liberalism. In what world does an 11-year-old boy know best in the world of white supremacy when it suits white supremacy's interest? You see, if you put an 11-year-old black child out there at the local gay pride parade, white media's going to do puff pieces where they do nothing but praise it and they're not going to ask any questions. Now, if Dwayne Wade's son got out there and said something needs to be done about the police because they're killing black children, first of all, Dwayne Wade wouldn't put it on Instagram. Gabrielle Union wouldn't mention it. They wouldn't be so hot to trot to get on social media. And if perchance they did one little posting, if it got out somehow, the white media would be raising pure hell about it. This is not about the kids at all. It's about the white pedophiles who have made a movement out of violating children. What you see here, it's that NAMBLA pedophile talk. That's what you see Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union trafficking in. The kind of stuff that they're doing here, this is exactly what the pedophiles at NAMBLA like to do. This is the kind of stuff that you think you would find on the dark web. About the only thing that they did in this piece was they left out the part about kids should be able to have sex with whomever they want. The idea that children are to be looked upon in sexual terms, that a child has some sort of reasoning process when it comes to sex. For God's sakes, kids stick their fingers in light sockets. Kids play in traffic. They do a lot of stupid stuff. That's the mindset that a child comes from. But I'm supposed to think that a child who has that kind of mindset where they're getting constantly into trouble and ain't thinking through nothing, and they don't consider any of their actions. Well, when it comes to sex, though, on the other hand, this kid is the picture of well thought out. This kid happens to be the picture of deliberate thought. Oh, clearly this was well considered. Based on what experience? Based on what reasoning powers? A child has no business talking about sex or even being exposed to it or having anything to do with it, much less having their parents present them as being some sort of sexually aware and no doubt sexually interested being. This is hideous what they have done. This is reprehensible what they have done. And it plays to all the pedophiles. Pedophiles like to look at kids and think, oh, this kid's already interested in homosexuality. Well, in that case, then, oh, he's able to handle it. It's his parents who can't handle it. Oh, you'd be amazed how mature these kids are. That's what NAMBLA likes to do. That's what these pedophile organizations, these professional pedophile rings like to do. Yes, this is outrageous, but that's part of how you recondition the society. It's part of how you change and alter what the society is willing to accept. Society is used to having boundaries, and when people cross those boundaries, they immediately get back in a line. Well, if society looks at a particular thing as being totally unacceptable, then you come along at the very moment of outrage and boldly advocate for it, even in the face of withering opposition. It's going to be shocking the first time that somebody decides to violate social mores. It's going to be provocative the second time they do it. It will be annoying the third or fourth time they do it, and by the time you get to time number 6 or 7, it'll be boring. See, you can recalibrate social norms using a scalpel or using a hammer. And what you see Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union doing here, this is unquestionably a hammer, a jackhammer. Now, some of you will say that these two messed up Negroes are free to raise their messed up kids in whatever messed up way they want, because it's not like it's us. It's just these idiots. Yes. More morons who are on the white media celebrity bandwagon, and they're doing all that weird stuff that they see white media telling them to do, which they never have their white counterparts do. Well, there's no cure for stupid, and that's the end of that, right? Well, the problem is it's not just them and not just their kids. This is being aimed at us. If you look at the piece, you see nothing but images of black folks. They made sure to censor all the white folks out, blur all the white folks out. Yeah, they want to make sure this is aimed at black people. That's what's happening here. This is deliberate. It is intentional. Every word and every image in this piece is intentional. And what a surprise, it comes to us from our good friends at USA Today, who in my last video essay, I was pointing out these guys are trying to write the slaves out of slavery. What they're doing is meant to set the stage for going to school boards and demanding that the gay lifestyle be taught to your kids whether you approve of it or not. This is about trying to get kids basically as sexually interested as possible, as young as possible. Just because someone tragically may be molested at a young age, that does not mean that you're supposed to be trying to find new and inventive ways to get other kids sexually interested as possible. Just because something happens to someone does not mean that it was right. The white media never approves of black people unless we're doing something that's detrimental to our community. And that's how you know this is all a setup. The white media, with this piece, they're just doing nothing but gushing over Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union and their son, just gushing over them. When's the last time you've had the white media doing that? They never do this. So that's how you know that this is a setup. This is somebody who's trying to figure out how to sell you on an idea. And the white media knows that black folks have a weakness when it comes to sports, when it comes to celebrity. We don't handle entertainment very well, especially not viewing it. We don't compartmentalize very well when it comes to sports and entertainment. And the white media knows that. They also know that black folks are ego-starved. So, hey, we know that Dwayne Wade has some money and you don't, and black people have mastered the art of living in denial. So instead of fighting to change our circumstances as a group, instead we decided to take the easy way out, and we're going to go looking for proxies and surrogates. Dwayne Wade's going to be a surrogate for every black man who didn't make it. Gabrielle Union's going to be a surrogate for every black woman who didn't make it. And what is their son going to local gay pride parade? What's he going to be a surrogate for, huh? And presenting children as being interested in sexuality before they even hit puberty, that is a recipe for pedophilia. That is drawing a bullseye on every black child on this planet, because this kind of media goes global. It ain't just limited to your home city, your home state. It ain't just limited to the US. This is meant to be seen by the world. And then you wonder why every time that there's some hurricane that hits Haiti, or every time that there's some earthquake in South America, or every time that there's some so-called relief agency going into Africa a few months or maybe even a few years later, we always hear the same thing. Turns out while these good white folks were in there allegedly helping out, they were also helping themselves to every child they could get their hands on. And you wonder why it is that all of these good white folks and these good white relief agencies can't wait to set up schools. Oh, we want to set up schools, and oh, we would love to be teachers. We want to spend some time and learn about the culture. Oh, we just love these kids, love these kids, love these kids. Can't wait to set up an orphanage. Can't wait to set up an orphanage. Love to set up an orphanage. Yeah, whatever it takes to make sure they got as much access to these black children as possible. How many times do we have to see the scam before we finally wise up to it? This is what Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union are playing into. It is a script that plays itself out. It is a social narrative that we've allowed to go on for too damn long. Now look how bold they've become with it. They have issued an invitation to every degenerate scumbag out there to call themselves coming after black kids. Why? The black kids want the pedophiles. Because after all black people are just alike. All black people are all the same, just one big monolithic Negro. This is the kind of dynamite that these two are playing with. And it doesn't just affect them and their son. It affects me, you, and all the rest of us and every black child on this planet. This is why I tell you, we don't need these well-to-do hand-picked celebrity Negroes to be anywhere near us. When they show up, they bring all this nonsense that they picked up from their white paymasters and their white associates. Yeah, all of those West Coast values that they do where anything goes, except the thing is, white folks will preach that all day long. Occasionally, as with Allison Mack, they'll go ahead and do it, but behind closed doors. See, Allison Mack, she wasn't putting her degeneracy on display. She wasn't making a show out of it. And if she had tried, you better believe there's some white folks who would have pulled her coat about it. They do their dirt behind closed doors. If they getting wild and loose, they do it behind closed doors. Black folks, on the other hand, let it all hang out, preferably in public. In fact, you should do it in public. Oh, isn't that just so wild and crazy? Yeah, these white folks will encourage you to do all kinds of stuff that they themselves would never do. This is why I tell you, we don't need these celebrity Negroes around us. We don't even want them around us. They're not going to do us any good. A Negro like Gabrielle Union and a empty nothing like Dwayne Wade, Negroes like this, they ain't going to take us anywhere. Every time they show up, what do you think is going to be more important to them? Reparations? Or that we need to have more black children at the local gay pride parade? Which one do you think that Dwayne Wade's going to prioritize? Well, he's already shown you. As far as he's concerned, if he's going to stick his neck out, it's going to be in a way that pleases whatever the prevailing white zeitgeist is at the moment. And that doesn't include anything that empowers us. And as for Gabrielle Union, well, the less said, the better. This is the reason why I keep telling you guys, I want you to have a full belly of revulsion for these clowns, just like I do. I don't ever want you trying to figure out how to get these guys to be in our orbit, because when they show up, they ain't going to be showing up for black empowerment. Black empowerment is not at the top of their totem pole of values, not at the top of their list of priorities. It ain't nowhere on their schedule. Black empowerment does not factor into any of their plans. It's not even in their what would pass for thought processes. They don't want nothing to do with black empowerment. That's not what interests them. White acceptance and white approval, that is, however, not merely at the top of their totem pole. It's at the top, the middle, the bottom. It's not at the top of their list of priorities. It's at the top of the list, middle of the list, end of the list, and everywhere in between. Rule number 1, get white acceptance. Rule number 2, if you still have a breath left in your body, keep trying to get white acceptance. That's what it is to them. And look what they're doing for that white acceptance. This gives you a window as to what it is that's going on with the white society. What's going on in the white community? What is it that they're saying? What is it that they're thinking? Look what they send their hand-picked puppets to do and say when it comes to us. And that's how you can tell what their agenda is, what their thoughts are, and what it is that they're saying. These guys are showing you. They didn't do it because they thought the black community was on board with this. They did it precisely because their white handlers told them, you need to go and do this. Yes, boss. No, we don't need individuals like this anywhere near us. We are their power source. They're not ours. Without us, Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union wouldn't exist. We would go on for another 66 trillion years, thank you, Elijah Muhammad, without these clowns. They would disappear in a single instant without us. That's the reason why we're making moves and don't need these bastards. That's the whole point of what we've been trying to do for the last decade and almost decade and a half, to teach you, to reinforce with you, to encourage you that you're the power, not them. They never have been the power. These scumbags have been just bystanders on the sidelines, which is where they belong, except for every once in a while when their white handlers tell them, go over there where those black people are and try to sow seeds of confusion among them. Then all of a sudden, here they come. They bring all this madness with them. They've been around their white handlers for so long that they've become one of them. They'll do anything to please white power. Now, Dwayne Wade may have no problem offering up his son to pedophiles, but he's also offering up your children as well. And no black people of any note are taking the hard line against this, at least not that I've seen. Well, let me tell you something. It is not harmless when you sit on your hands and allow the white media to push the lie that black children are fair game for pedophiles. Because that's precisely what this kind of imagery and precisely what this kind of social media babbling is meant to do. It is meant to send a message loud and clear. Black children are fair game for every degenerate pedo out there. If Dwayne and Gabrielle went on Facebook and put up a posting saying our son is about the same age Tamir Rice was when he was murdered by Cincinnati police for playing in the park, would the white media be gushing over that? Would they publish puff pieces where there's not a single solitary syllable of opposition? No. If Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union actually did have something resembling character, something resembling steel in their spines and not being a bunch of jello spines out there, if they actually did stand up for the Tamir Rices out there, then what would happen is the white media would have quotes from the Fraternal Order of Police. Because see, whenever the police say something, they don't come and talk to us. They just repeat it, post it, and that's the end of that. But whenever black folks say that the police are out of control and have to be stopped, all of a sudden, well, we have to get quotes from the Fraternal Order of Police, you know. And if Dwayne Wade actually had the character and the integrity and the morality to point out, hey, my son's the same age Tamir Rice was when he was murdered, the white media would be out there confronting Adam Silver, the head of the NBA, and asking him, do you agree with this? What about the players? Let's get these black players over here, especially these black players with white girlfriends. We're sure there's a couple of twisted black conservatives in the NBA. These guys have been around the NRA types too long. So let's go ahead and talk to them because we're sure that they'll say that they don't agree. They would be trying to find everyone who they could who would disagree. And they would be trying to find out how to low-key put pressure on all of them. We need you to denounce Dwayne Wade. Look what he said. We need you to denounce him. What effect will this have on preseason ticket sales? What effect will this have? That's what they would be doing. It would be a straight up attack piece. The white media would make sure that they gave a lot of space to anyone and everyone who would criticize or oppose a move like that. But Dwayne Wade gets out there and says, I'm going to be having my son at the local gay pride parade and we're just cheering him on because that's just so cute. White media doesn't give a single word of opposition. No balance here. No balance necessary. Let me tell you something. It takes absolutely no courage to take the white supremacist line, to do what it is that white power wants. That takes no courage at all. It's abject cowardice. When your paycheck depends on making sure you do what white power wants, an insipid and dangerous stunt like this requires no courage, which explains why it is that Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade are doing it. Because a move like this doesn't require any character either. And that's why you don't see any of these punks standing with the new voices of black media. It takes courage and character to do what we do. Because it ain't easy. It costs us a lot. We suffer every day. We struggle every day. We strive every day. And more importantly than that, we oppose white power and all of its sick, twisted demands every day. That's the hardest thing that anyone can do. And we do it every freaking day. We are not here because we took the easy way out. We're here because when you're a man or a woman of conscience and character, you simply cannot live with yourself if you decide to take the easy way out. Yeah, if you're looking for a big paycheck from white power, you have to be willing to sell your soul and the souls of your children. I guess some of that conspiracy theory stuff that people put up from time to time about how these celebrities got to basically be willing to hand over their children to the devil. Well, apparently that stuff ain't conspiracy theory. It's conspiracy fact. Based on what I've seen. Sending wolves in sheep's clothing among us. That's what the white media's done with this move. What they've been doing for the longest time. They put these chumps on the payroll, and after they make sure that these idiots understand that whatever little creature comforts you got are directly tied to your unwavering obedience to white power, these guys made up their minds a long time ago that they were going to sell their souls and try to sell ours too if they could manage it. Now, family, I want you to understand something. Whenever you're cheering for these athletes and actors who have nothing to do with us and don't stand up for us at all and help to promote all sorts of nonsense among us, or at least try to, whenever you're cheering for these clowns, you might want to take a step back and ask, what kind of values are you supporting? See, the white media understands exactly what their job is. The job of any media is to promote a particular value system. That's what the point of all media is. When you're saying something, writing something, it's a set of values that you're trying to forward. And what values does it forward when you have a couple of celebrity black folks who take their 11-year-old boy who hasn't even hit puberty yet, and they have this kid essentially telling the world that he's gay, and even going so far as to go down to the local gay pride parade? What kind of value system is that? It's one where the definition of your identity is not black. It's not anything that you were born with or born as. Instead, it's what do you do in the bedroom? Your identity revolves around your crotch, and apparently you're never too young for that. That is sick and twisted and demented, and that's exactly what they're trying to instill and popularize among us. The LGBT movement is shot through with white supremacists and anti-black racists of every stripe, pattern, and spot. To give advocacy for the LGBT community without also demanding accountability for their racism is stupid, and it puts all of us in danger. Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, they can afford to play footsie with these racist elements because they're not the ones who the anti-black LGBTs are going to come after, at least not at first, not in the beginning. But just like Kevin Hart and Roly-Poly Martin and Joy Reid before them, Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, they're going to get their wake-up call when the time comes. And the time always comes because, as I've been teaching you for at least 12 plus years now, when white power is done with their tools, they always make sure to break their tools in the end. And these two clowns will wind up no differently. Where was Dwayne Wade at to cheer on Black Lives Matters? Or Gabrielle Union, for that matter? Where the hell was she at? What, maybe they posted something that could be vaguely considered supportive? But the truth of the matter is, I'm not so much concerned what they're for, I'm concerned what they're against. Are they actually against police violence? Nah, because a lot of them, as far as they're concerned, some of their best friends are police. Or at least they know the white power wouldn't approve of that, so they don't dare say it. A large part of what the LGBT movement's been trying to do is to try to figure out how to redefine all the terms surrounding gender, because they were losing the war to try to forward what they see as the brave new world they're trying to bring about. They were losing the war for the longest time, and they were like, well, the problem happens to be the words, and we can just change the words. So basically, they've been trying to figure out how to redefine gender, how to redefine male and female. And the more that they talk, the less sense they make, but that's fine. To them, chaos, just throwing all the definitions into complete confusion, that serves their purposes. Because what they want is to obliterate all of those definitions so that anything goes. You can't sit there and push all of this. I mean, if you look at the acronyms that they use, what is it these days that they're up to? LGBTQRSTUVQIX plus. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at them going, you guys have become a parody unto yourselves, but it just goes to show the thought process. There's nothing coherent in their thinking. And the idea that we're going to redefine everything, I'm holding a ballpoint pen in my hand right now. What's to stop me from calling it an apple? Well, because we've defined what an apple is. Yeah, but who are you to tell me that this isn't an apple? Okay, well, if this is an apple, what's a ballpoint pen? Well, you know, there's different types of ballpoint pens, you see. You can call yours a ballpoint pen, but I'm calling this a ballpoint pen too. Folks, that is schizophrenia. That is madness. And that's exactly what's being promoted here. Let's get it straight, folks. A society is comprised of a man and a woman working together to provide for children who they know are genetically theirs. A number of societies, almost all European, have tried to have majority gay societies, and they all eventually came to an end in very short order. Because when your lifestyle is based on unheterosexual behavior, you cannot expect to enjoy heterosexual results. And one of the aspects of heterosexuality is you're going to have children. Heterosexuality is the only lifestyle that benefits society because it's also the only one that enables society to perpetuate itself. To have some sort of sexual practice or cultural practice that ultimately doesn't end in a new generation to carry on that practice, it is pointless. These are psychosexual vanity projects that have now tried to recraft themselves and rebrand themselves as social equality movements. All of these ridiculous maneuvers to prop up this lifestyle. People who have invested in their bedroom activity, they define themselves strictly in terms of what they do in the bedroom, and they've taken what ordinarily was confined only to the basements of some sex parlor or to some San Francisco bathhouse, and they're now trying to figure out how to elevate that to the level of some sort of otherwise honorable and integrity-filled social movement, and it don't work. All of these maneuvers meant for somebody who's trying to pretend as if they're heterosexual too. Heterosexuals have kids. Well, Mary and Stacy can't have kids. Yeah, but Mary can get herself in vitro fertilized. By who? Mary can't get fertilized by Sarah or whoever the world it was, Jane or whoever it was I said my analogy. Okay, well, that's okay. It's a matter of they're having children. For what? What are you having children for? What are you trying to imitate? Where is this going? I saw an article online the other day. You had this gay male couple who one of the guys decides that he was going to have his mother have her in vitro fertilized with his partner's sperm, which apparently there was some surrogate woman who gave one of her eggs for the process. I'm like, so let me get this straight. You bring your own mother and say, I'm going to have some strange male's sperm put into you, along with the egg of some strange woman. And the reason why is not because we failed to be able to conceive, but because biologically we can't get pregnant under any circumstances. And I'm thinking, how is this going to be a means for society to be able to carry itself forward? This is not about being anti-gay anything. It's a matter of, okay, let's play the game and say that we try to incorporate these practices, this lifestyle, into the social fabric. How's it going to work? And you very quickly find out that it doesn't work, because having children is not a vanity project. You don't have children so that you can feel as if your sexual lifestyle is validated to people who don't practice it. Your child represents your living legacy, not some means for you to be able to certify that what I do in the bedroom is no different than what you do. I have kids too, so you can't say that I'm any different than you. Humans have all kinds of sexual kink that they like to engage in, but people understand that bedroom acts are not fit for the town square, because the town square represents the commons, the baseline for what a society values and what it says that it is. Now, until recently, people knew better than to demand that their sexual behavior that's normally confined to all sorts of nondescript places, they knew better than to demand that what previously was only carried out in swingers joints actually be treated with respect. The society needs to salute this kind of behavior. Folks, this is the definition of defining deviancy down. That's what's happening here. That's what you're seeing going on with crap like this. Yes, people are gullible, but as a collective, they're not stupid. That's something that these radicals fail to understand. These gender radicals, these sexual libertine radicals, which is what they are, they just refuse to understand the reality. People know when someone's trying to indoctrinate them. They recognize when it's going on. They understand when someone's trying to force an idea or a particular practice on them. They get it. Trying to hide behind children won't work. It won't fool anyone. And whether they want to hear it or not, the LGBT movement has been using blatantly coercive measures and all kinds of clearly aggressive pressure tactics in order to force people to go along with the lifestyle or to try to bully, shame, or force them into silence. Well, has it worked? Has this gender jihad of shutting down or shutting up voices of opposition made them go away? California passed a gay marriage ban. And that's supposed to be ground central. That's supposed to be ground zero. That's the home base for the LGBT movement. And yet California was the state that passed a gay marriage ban. And as we all know, as goes California, so goes the nation, right? You can do an end run to the Supreme Court, but understand that's only on paper. You want to know why it is that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments have had integrity, they've had substance? It's because the nation, whether they liked it or not, even though they did it through gritted teeth, at the end of the day, they accepted it. When you decide that you're going to be forcing laws on people that they have not accepted, then you can't be surprised when they look and say, how the hell do we take this apart? It's only a matter of time before someone decides to push for a federal law or maybe even a constitutional amendment. And when that happens, then what's the response going to be? Going to go to the Supreme Court for that? There will be plenty of screaming and yelling against a constitutional amendment against gay marriage, especially from the white media and their celebrity mouthpieces. You'll get plenty of movies and TV shows which will dramatize how wrong and unjust such a move would be. Plenty of phony media pieces saying that gay kids will commit suicide en masse, etc. All lies. And such a law would pass anyway, resoundingly. All of the propaganda saying that people accept gay marriage is one thing to tolerate something. It's totally different to be in favor of something. And the white media, especially these radicals, they don't care for the difference. As far as they're concerned, well, they'll never see the day when they actually encounter the difference. They're trying to figure out, how do we contain what happened in California? We need for that to be a one-off. Well, the Supreme Court sealed that one. Don't be so sure. You see, these gender radicals, they've created a bubble for themselves, and they used a bunch of their flunkies who are on their payroll, their paid butt kissers, to assure themselves that they have all this broad-based support that they don't have and never will have. And these paid, bought-off flunkies are nothing but yes men who tell their paymasters that they're right when in fact they're dead wrong. There's a lot of deliberate myopia going on in the LGBT community, and the reason for a lot of this myopia is because homosexuals are disproportionately represented when it comes to media. And I ain't just talking about David Geffen and a number of others. There's a lot of homosexuals who are in Hollywood, a lot of homosexuals who are in media in general. And because media has a lot of power to influence people, a lot of them have told themselves, hey, these people out here, these heteros, these cisgender, whatever, these guys will follow whatever we say, because after all, we're the myth makers. We happen to be the ones who shape the public discourse. They say what we tell them to say. They do what we tell them to do. All we got to do is put some celebrities out there and the people will follow like lemmings. That's what happens when you own your own media outlets that are able to reach people in around the country or around the world. You start to believe that you're omnipotent. You start to believe that you have a magic wand that can just make people do whatever you say, because in many cases they do. And you also hide behind that because it's a matter of, well, why should I have to make any sort of argument or persuade people? I'll just tell them to do it and they do it. Now, while it is true that people do follow celebrities to an unhealthy degree, it's one thing to idolize a celebrity. It's one thing to want or envy the wealth and fame of a particular celebrity. But it's a whole other ball game to want to take on the attitudes and social practices of a particular celebrity. People are much better at compartmentalizing what they don't like about their favorite sports athlete or Hollywood actor when they want to. If they like an actor's acting because he's really good at it, but they can't stand their social views, they'll compartmentalize. Yeah, I'll go see his next movie, but I'll be damned if I go along with any of his social activism. Yeah, I think he's really impressive on the hardwood or on the gridiron, but I'll be damned if I go along with this social advocacy that he's doing. The whole college admissions scandal is proof of how the society can take the very people who it idolizes on TV and turn on them in a heartbeat if they do something that the public doesn't like. Yes, the public does idolize celebrities, but you're fooling no one but yourself if you think that love can't or won't turn to hate if the public sees these people's private lifestyles have nothing in common with what the public does. Main Street is not the Strip. And that's something that these gender radicals, especially the ones who are in media, simply refuse to understand. When you got a lot of money and you've walled yourself off from the public, you can start to believe your own crap that you live on Mount Olympus and not in the same world with the very public who you want to keep away from. But that distance that you keep from the public, it's also what makes the public feel distance from you. So there's not going to be any hesitation when they look and say, well, these guys aren't like us. When they see you openly pushing your child as a sexual lifestyle advocate, then the public begins to realize just how little you have in common with them. Taking refuge inside a bubble guarantees that you don't have to hear what you don't want to hear, but it was California, the capital of the gay movement in Hollywood, that passed a gay marriage ban. You can go ahead and hide your head in the sand. That'll make it easier for people to kick you in the ass. That tells you everything you need to know. This refusal to have to engage with the reality tells you everything you need to know about how much power the LGBT lobby and their media pals don't have. They saw the limits of their power, and on their own home turf, in their very living room, no less. And they've been trying to convince themselves that they still have all this support that they only imagined that they did. This kind of Hollywood social engineering clearly came from the back of somebody's limousine, from some chump snorting coke off of a hooker's behind. It reeks of the mentality typical of people who live in gated communities and see the public merely as consumers. And the only time that they ever think about the public is whenever their marketing people talk about them. And it's usually in terms of, here's how we'll successfully sell them on all this crap. As they see it, the public's a bunch of rubes, and in most cases the public proved them right, but when it comes time to get serious, the public at any moment can prove you dead wrong, with disastrous consequences. Celebrities endorse all kinds of things, and the public reacts by eagerly buying it. So, as these gender radicals, especially those in media, see it, it ought to be simple enough to get that same public to get on board with the LGBT lifestyle by having some celebrity endorse it. It makes perfect sense, right? Why would it not work? Well, it wouldn't work if you have an enormous amount of contempt for the public and refuse to understand what it is that celebrity endorsements are good for and what they're not good for. What a celebrity endorsement can do and what it cannot do. But if you spend your time having nothing but contempt for the public and nothing but disgust for the public's values, well, you won't be able to see that pig simple reality. Again, if you have decided to hide inside a bubble and you got enough money to keep the public at a distance, then at least in your own narrow circle, you can indulge whatever delusion you want. But the public doesn't live in your bubble. So when you finally find yourself forced to venture out of that bubble into the big bad real world where the public is at, all of a sudden your market wisdom falls flat. The culture of America's living rooms is not the culture of a San Francisco bathhouse, whether you like that or not. Celebrities can sell the public consumer goods, but that's only because the public wants those things already. That's what celebrity endorsements came out of. It was a bunch of guys who were selling stuff to the public, and somebody was looking for an edge. Hey, if I can add a little bit of extra punch to my advertisements by having some big name celebrity in it, that's what it's about. Nobody would ever try to get a celebrity to sell the public on something that has no cachet and has no mass broad support. You're trying to sell to a primary audience, not a niche market. That's what celebrity endorsements are good for. And that's the reason why they keep failing when it comes to psychosexual social nonsense like this. If you've decided that you don't want to hear this reality, what you've also decided is you're going to live in your dream world, and that doesn't work. When an athlete or an actor pitches hot dogs, soft drinks, Uber, or a particular handheld electronic device to the public, all they're doing is trying to persuade the viewer into buying this particular brand and not their competitors. What competitor is there to the LGBTQRSTPUV plus lifestyle? What competition is there? It doesn't even make sense to be trying to get celebrity endorsements for the lifestyle. They're not trying to convince people who don't want and will never buy an iPad or a pair of basketball shoes to buy them. They're trying to get people who are not now and will never be part of the LGBTQRSTVU plus lifestyle to join it or to otherwise be in favor of it. Look, everybody needs shoes. Maybe not Air Jordans or LeBrons, but they need shoes. Most of the things that celebrities pitch on television are things that the public already has a need or a desire for. It's one thing to endorse an item, it's quite another to endorse a belief system. And whether these LGBT radicals want to face it or not, the reason that they're not getting anywhere with the public is because people believe that their lifestyle is wrong. Or at the very least, the public believes there's something wrong with their lifestyle and something wrong with them for engaging in it. There's a reason why Tom Cruise may be the biggest Scientologist since L. Ron Hubbard, who, by the way, was a racist. I'm saying that to save people the trouble of having to put it in my comment section. But you notice how Tom Cruise never gets out there trying to proselytize to anyone. He's not trying to convert anybody. John Travolta tried it with that god-awful Battlefield Earth movie. That thing crashed and burned, and he learned his lesson. Well, at least he was careful about it. He didn't make it into a raging endorsement of Scientology, but everybody knew that's what it was. Dwayne Wade might be able to sell me on buying a McDonald's hamburger, but he will never sell me on changing what is a hardwired, biologically ingrained drive, and that is for me as a man to desire women, and only women as sexual partners or life partners. A lot of females sexually experiment with lesbianism, especially when they've just gotten out of their parents' house for the first time, but this is only a comparative handful of females who try it, and most of them get over that pretty fast and never go back to it. And as for men as a group, men never experiment with homosexuality at all. So this is why we see cross-dressing, transgender, whatever, aimed primarily at men, because someone is seeing men as being the most uncompromisingly resistant segment of the society to the lifestyle, and they're trying to figure out, is there a way to soften that resolve? No athlete or entertainer can dictate to me what to believe. I don't give a damn how much you have them out here trying to endorse a particular sexual practice. When it comes to what I believe, you're not good. There is no celebrity endorsement that's going to be able to sway me, not on that. That's the reason why you don't see the politicians trying to do it. When's the last time you've seen a presidential election where they said, here's a message in favor of Barack Obama and put some celebrity up there? They don't do that. While I may like a particular celebrity's acting or athletic skill, I'm not some mindless lemming who is going to do what they say simply because they say it. And also, if I see them trying to endorse something that I'm not in favor of, I'm not going to say, well, you know what? I used to not be in favor of this until I saw Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union say something about it. Now I'm changed my mind. People idolize the rich. That doesn't mean they like it when the rich get huge tax breaks and stick the middle and lower classes with the bill. The wealthy have spent untold sums of money to insulate the political process from the will of the people. They've done it by making sure the monetary rewards the legislators are getting are far greater than whatever the political post is actually worth. And these moneyed interests also make sure that the paid-off political whore receives benefits even after they leave office. This is why it's so important that after congressman or senator or president so-and-so leaves office or gets voted out, that these corporations give them huge, cushy, high-paying, do-nothing jobs. This is a de facto corporate pension that these politicians get for selling out the public. And this system of bribes is sufficient to get the politicians to totally ignore the public will and to do the bidding of their corporate pimps, no matter how much it damages or destroys the society. What's going on here is not about parents lovingly accepting their child's choice in sexual practice or sexual leanings. This isn't about parents and their kids. This is about the society. That's who the audience for this indoctrination is, who the target has always been. This isn't about acceptance at all. Quite the opposite. This is about rejection of choice. This is about keeping people, trying to prevent people from being able to choose something. This is not about live and let live. The goal is to force as many people as possible to endorse something, even if they don't agree with it, even if they don't believe in it. We should all be able to agree that when it comes to sexuality, children are off limits in any shape, form, or fashion. We should all be able to agree with that. But you got TV shows, video games, and even cartoons that do everything that they can to sexualize children under the age of 12. Kids should be taught one thing in particular. Children should be taught about sex. They're too dang young to even be thinking about that, talking about that, and that if someone tries to convince them that they're not too young, it's someone who's trying to hurt them. How many of these gay spokespeople or celebrities or what have you have later on admitted that they were either molested or otherwise violated when they were children? If anyone should be opposed to associating children with sexuality in any way, shape, or form, it ought to be them. But they're not. At least not in any large numbers, that's for dang sure. And why is that? Because all of us try to validate what's happened to us. And we try to validate things through the practices and habits and patterns of our lives. We are either rejecting what has been done to us, rejecting what we've seen, or we are otherwise trying to find some way to validate and reinforce it. This is a cycle at work. A molester violates a child, and the child in turn grows up only to eventually violate a child, and so the cycle goes. So on a closing note, I'm simply going to say that there's a word that's gotten a bad rap in recent years, in recent decades. That word is tolerance. It's gotten a bad rap. See, there's been a bunch of left-wingers out there who have said that tolerance is bad because it means you don't like whomever. You shouldn't stop at tolerance. You should go beyond tolerance. Well, the question is, do you have a right to tell me that I must go beyond tolerance? Because now what you're saying is you're going to tell me what to do. While I certainly didn't agree with everything that he said, I did agree with the late, great Patrice O'Neal when he said, "Why can't I hate you? What's wrong with me hating you?" In this case, I'm not talking about LGBTs or anything, just in general. What is wrong with somebody as long as they can't do anything? What is wrong with someone disapproving of something or disliking something? People can be as intolerant as they want. When you're a child, it's a matter of, I want you to like me. But when you become an adult, you're supposed to get beyond trying to be validated by everyone. That is, unless you're an adult who's trying to figure out how to control everyone around you, then it becomes very important to you that people approve of something whether they want to or not. And what that means is you ain't got to approve with a smile on your face, but you had better, when asked, say that you're in favor of it. And isn't that the kind of thing that they claim that they're against? People can be as intolerant as they want. They certainly are behind closed doors, and they have every right to control their own personal space. But when they decide to try to control the outer society, somebody else's space, that's a problem. And that doesn't matter if it's a homophobe or a homo zealot. People need to accept that there will always be things and ideas that the society will not outright ban, but will not embrace either. Things that fall into a middle ground between what is entirely unacceptable and what is mandatory for everyone to do. There's always going to be things the society picks and chooses. Some segments will want it, others won't. And trying to figure out how do we tip that balance to make it where everyone has to do this whether they want to or not. That is psychopathology at work. There's always going to be things that society will allow begrudgingly, though never agree with. That's what you call tolerance. You've always had certain white liberals saying that tolerance isn't good enough. You have to embrace what you don't like, whether you want to or not. And black people, there's always been some contingent of black folks who want white mommy and white daddy to hug them, and they go along with that line of garbage. As black people, we have never wanted white people to like us. It's never been about, do you like me? It's a matter of, you should never be able to stand in my way. You damn sure should not be able to violate my rights with impunity. You ain't gotta like me long as you can't do anything to me. And if you try, long as you are punished to the fullest extent of the law. That's been the problem. I don't care if I go the rest of my life without any Caucasian ever saying hi or hail fellow well met. My life is not defined in terms of acceptance by other people. It is defined in terms of pursuing my own interests without encumbrance. Now, even though acceptance has never been what we wanted or needed, there have been some black folks who have gone along with the line that that's what we want when it's not. We don't need white acceptance. What we need is for the white supremacists to stop oppressing us and stop standing in our way. When these white liberals were out there saying tolerance isn't good enough, they weren't doing it for you and me. They weren't doing it for the sake of saying you should not tolerate black people. Why, you ought to like black people. They were doing that for themselves. They're always trying to use us in order to set up their own next move on the societal chessboard. They're always trying to use us to get a leg up for their movements. They were piggybacking off of us like they always do, and using our issues to push their agenda. The only thing that you can reasonably ask another person for is that they not be able to assault you, harass you, or pursue you. If people don't like that you exist, that's fine, so long as they can't do anything about it. If Dwayne Wade wants to be gay, that's fine. Gabrielle Union wants to be a lesbian, that's fine. They want to both be bisexual, and that's not out of the realm of possibility, by the way. That's entirely fine. If their son decides to grow up to be part of the LGBTQ or STUV plus Q, whatever lifestyle, that's fine. But when you have something like this is being endorsed to children, and you're pretending as if, oh, there's no harmful side effects, the pedophiles certainly won't take note of this, what you are doing is you're playing a very dangerous game. And you have elements who are trying to shut down any and everyone who will say what I've said. I have no doubt that this video is going to get flagged down and get taken down. Because the exact same people who think that they can get people to change their mind about a sexual practice if they just flood the zone with as many puff pieces for Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union as possible, they think that corporate media censorship is the answer. Well, they've been trying that for decades now and it ain't been working. And going high tech with it on the internet will not work. If you don't like hearing the truth, that's fine, but it ain't gonna change the truth. Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union can do whatever they want under their roof. And I have every right to say what I think about it, and more importantly than that, I have every right not to jump off the cliff along with them.